All right. Hi, Chris. Welcome to Finance Fridays for Sudozi.
Hi, Rose. Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah. So each week, as you know, we'll speak with a really special guest that has a unique financial experience. And today we have the honor of welcoming Chris and getting to know a bit of your background and yeah, what you're doing at LinksDAO today. To kick things off, how's your Friday going?
Pretty good. No complaints. It's getting a little cooler in New York. Great weather, so can't complain.
Yeah. I didn't realize you were in New York these days. I thought you were in Atlanta for a little bit, but
Yeah.
all right. So we'll definitely get into LinksDAO and sort of being CFO in a Web3 organization and some fun details there. I guess to kick things off, do you mind sharing a little bit about your background and how you got to this place?
Yeah, absolutely. So right out of school, I studied engineering in undergrad, but then went into consulting. So I was in management consulting at BCG, Boston Consulting Group, for a number of years. Did that for a while. I did it for a couple of years, went to business school, then came back and worked in consulting for a while. As you know, as typical, worked in a variety of industries, mostly consumer and travel related, but did a whole smattering of things. And then a few years out of business school, I left to join an early stage technology startup called Journera in the travel industry. I was part of the founding team there. Did that for around 5 years, and then recently made the move over to LinksDAO. So another very early stage company with single-digit number of employees.
Yeah.
And so similar in some ways to Journera, but different, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. One of the things that when I was at Uber, I worked with a bunch of folks who had, I'd say, their first in-house, like non-consulting role at Uber, whether it's in biz ops or strategy and planning. How was that transition for you, going from consulting, dealing with a lot of sophisticated strategy, down to the micro details of a company?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the consulting background is certainly helpful in a lot of ways, right? You get to look at really interesting and complex problems and so on. And so I thought that was a very helpful background. A lot of people will jump, like you said, into a strategy role or a biz ops role. I wasn't. I was kind of, jumping in as like employee number 4 at an early stage startup,
Yeah.
and it's kind of not as kind of a smooth transition into like a strategy role at a big company, say. But I thought it was still a very helpful background, but certainly learned a lot of things that I didn't really get exposure to in consulting. So at Journera, that was my first role after consulting. I basically headed up both finance as well as our commercial team, kind of sales and biz dev efforts. And so it's funny, the things that you just never got exposure to in consulting, like negotiating a deal or signing a contract or working with lawyers to work through a contract and so on. It's just some of those more like kind of quote unquote real or kind of in the weeds things that a lot of that I think is really good. A lot of it also could be mind numbing at times, but that's how it is. But it was a really interesting kind of transition. I think I learned a lot from it as well.
As employee number 4, you could be doing a million things all day long and not sleeping. I think one of the things I'm experiencing that is just how do you get those priorities? Was it from your founder, CEO, and was it from the investors? How did you identify the priorities and then actually allocate time to those priorities in those early days?
Yeah, I think that's something I'm probably still learning to get better at. I mean, that's one of the big challenges of working at a really early stage company where you're kind of working from a blank slate. You could do a million different things, but you really have to choose the ones that are most valuable. And honestly, that was maybe the biggest transition from the consulting world, where you're kind of going from working on one project or two projects where you're very, very focused on a specific thing, a specific outcome, and a specific timeline, to a much more open-ended, it's really important to kind of prioritize time and where your efforts are going. So I don't know that I solved it. I certainly haven't solved it perfectly. But, I think it's a combination of things. I mean, hopefully, in most companies you'll have like a strong leadership, which has a very clear vision of, okay, this is where we're going. These are OKRs. These are the things that are important versus not. But, you mentioned like investors or others. There's certainly always lots of voices in the room. Could be investors, could be the team, could be customers, right?
Yeah.
In different directions. But I guess in my experience, the biggest thing is making sure you have a process to be reflective about that, right? So, whether it's the leadership team or the management team or just yourself, like being able to take the time to step back and say, okay, this is what we've been working on. Is it right? Are we going in the right direction? What do we add? What do we subtract? And all of that. Doing that with a regular cadence is definitely a game changer.
Yeah. Can you share a fun sort of duct tape experience for our finance and operations teams? Like any sort of process that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we actually did this. I had to copy and paste the data from here to there. And like, this was a process we ran for a couple of months and, it didn't break, but obviously it wouldn't scale with the company.
That's a very good question. I mean, we probably ran most things in spreadsheets for too long, where it felt like duct tape, everything from, CRM to a lot of our finance and budgeting processes to everything else. I mean, I think it's one of the things you're solving at Sudozi.
Yeah.
If I can, maybe I'll give one it's not my direct experience from Journera, but it is a great story. Is that Jeff, the founder of Journera, he was the founding CEO of Orbitz, the travel company back in the day. He'd love to tell about how when they started taking hotel bookings, it was done via fax. And this was in like so talk about duct tape. It was literally like faxes coming in and then translating that to a booking system. That's maybe the most extreme version of that.
Yeah, and I can imagine if you needed like some other information, you have to fax back to that person to like get another fax in to get the data you can enter in.
Not ideal.
Yeah, pretty fascinating. Not ideal. And so walk us through your journey of going from Journera to LinksDAO these past few months.
Yeah, so I officially joined LinksDAO on June 1st. So it's been a few months now. So it hasn't been too long, but I was a little involved before then, just in the community and in the project itself. I would say, there are a lot of things that are very similar, kind of the day-to-day of working on a business, running a business. But there's certainly a lot of things that are very unique. The whole kind of Web3 crypto and having a very active community involved, every second of every day has been very different. Also for me personally, going from Journera was an enterprise business. We were selling to companies, to large enterprises, whereas, now we're in a consumer business. So there's definitely been a lot to learn, or a lot, kind of changing between those two experiences. But at the same time, a lot of things very similar in the sense of, again, founding team, single digit number of employees, setting out a lot of processes that are new and figuring out how to build and all of that, which is, really what I enjoy and was very relevant from my experience at Journera to then working at LinksDAO.
Yeah. And as you were thinking of the next role and next transition in your career, and one of the things that a lot of our viewers and customers think about is, what is that new thing that I'm going to learn in the next role, and how am I going to expand myself as a CFO? Was Web3 or crypto a category that you purposely try to get into, or was it more like the people and other factors of the company that convinced you to join?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a combination of things. I'm a golfer, so obviously the fact that it was focused on golf is very appealing. But absolutely, from kind of a career and just kind of content of what I would be working on perspective, I did find the whole kind of Web3 angle very interesting, right? And so, kind of taking the stance of, or the perspective of, like, what kind of positions is finance kind of a strategic thing? It's not just like a back office function. It is actually very core to the business. I mean, really, you could probably say this for all or most Web3 or crypto companies, but just because it's, kind of financialized, right? There's cryptocurrencies, lots of tokens. It makes it very important being able to manage things or think about kind of the financial perspective of how the business runs. And so certainly for me and for LinksDAO and, the role that I'm in now, that was definitely a big consideration. So, okay, a golf membership and going out to buy a golf course with a great community attached, super exciting, but also thinking about how you do that in the context of Web3 and kind of a lot of new technology that this opens up, and how to manage kind of the internal company finances, but also thinking externally or more strategically for a long term, and how that works with crypto is definitely, one of the things that I find interesting. I think it's one of the more innovative things that's out there. So that was definitely a selling point.
We could have a whole 60-minute podcast, if not more, on just LinksDAO and the whole everything that you're doing there. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the details on the CFO role there, and then we'll come back out and talk about the company and sort of the vision and where you all are going. Stepping into in the prior exchange before we went live, tell me about that experience and walk me through what was going through your mind when you realized you couldn't use Expensify as a company.
Yeah, that was a very interesting moment. There's a lot of things, at least prior to working in Web3, where you just kind of take for granted, right? Sign up to use a tool, you use it, and start paying the fees or whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting wrinkle we had while setting up a lot of the kind of processes and financial operations for LinksDAO is that, some companies or underlying banks will just kind of not work with crypto related companies for, a variety of reasons, just for their own risk profile. I don't think there's anything particularly nefarious about LinksDAO, but, just the stance that companies take means that a tool like Expensify, which I just plan to use, like the product, would have loved to use again, but couldn't use it. We went to go reimburse someone and it wasn't possible. But so it's funny, it's a very tangible example of how things have had to be different from just kind of simple financial operations. And so we run into some of those, and then some of them are, much bigger differences for sure.
Yeah. And I know you're a pretty small company still, but talk to me a little bit about your sort of early or finance processes. Are you, I'm assuming you're able to close the books and anything there that a hybrid between new and traditional?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we do work in crypto has made it an interesting meld between kind of traditional finance and then kind of newer Web3 finance. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of the things are very similar, are really the same, but it's figuring out how to kind of fit the puzzle pieces together or connect the two different systems. So for us, we have assets that are crypto assets, sitting in a treasury, sitting in a crypto wallet or contract somewhere. We also have assets sitting in a bank account, and figuring out how to bring those two together and do so in kind of a practical and functioning way. And also just kind of some of the very simple nuts and bolts of, accounting and managing the finances when you have what amounts to multiple currencies, right? For us, instead of euros and dollars, it's Ether and USDC and dollars, but that adds an additional wrinkle that, it's just an additional kind of complexity that we have to manage. But also makes it interesting just thinking through how these things actually have impact on the business, how we manage cash, and a lot of those things that, every company has to do in some form or fashion, but we have to do it in a little different way than perhaps most.
Totally. And you're wearing your treasury hat much more so here than the early days of other startups. Cool. Well, in the last minute or two here, would love to hear a little bit more about LinksDAO, what you all are looking for in terms of talent, if you are hiring, and pass it over to you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't spend too much time on it, but so LinksDAO is, we like to describe ourselves as the most valuable golf membership in the world. And we're looking to create the modern golf and leisure club. So think about kind of the modern country club that extends beyond just a local, at a golf course to actually a global community of golfers that, get access to great events, content, courses, discounts, partnerships, and so on. And we're doing so through Web3 and crypto. So we actually have sold our memberships through NFTs that we sold to the marketplace. But we are very early. We launched literally on January 1 of this year, and then sold around $11 million of NFTs. And then we're definitely growing. So we actually just, I think we have 5 full-time employees now. Just hired our first marketing hire. We're hiring, quite a bit in engineering, but we'll be hiring across the board, for the rest of the year as we really grow out as a team. I think one of the other interesting things about LinksDAO, but other Web3 projects is there's a really engaged community. So we have a lot of community members that are actually engaged in the project and the company and helping out, which is very cool. But we'll be hiring, full-time roles as well, which is really great to see all that growth.
Awesome. How can folks learn more about LinksDAO and reach out to you or other members of the team, or sign up if there are still opportunities to
absolutely. You can learn more. You can go to our website at linksdao.io. Obviously, visit us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We also, I said we sell our memberships, or we sold our memberships through NFTs. That means they're tradable. They're available on marketplaces like OpenSea or LooksRare or others, where you may buy or sell NFTs. And then, for anyone that's really interested, you can join our Discord. We have about 15,000 people in there that are engaging every day, talking about everything, golf, crypto, the project itself, and everything in between. So a lot of places to get involved.
Awesome. We'll be sure to include those links at the event as well. Well, thanks, Chris. To round things out here, bringing it back to finance, what is your favorite Excel shortcut or hack that you've developed these past few years?
There's probably too many to list. Maybe that's sad, but I think it's like a core one. But index match is just I guess my favorite. It's too flexible and powerful, and taking VLOOKUPs to the next level. How could you not love that?
Totally awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today here on the Sudozi Friday LinkedIn Live. We'll be doing this every Friday. If you're interested in getting into the next one or future weeks, feel free to email me, rzp@sudozi.com. You won't want to miss out. I've got a great set of guests coming on from all spectrums of finance, and we'll be learning a lot on the show. All right. Thanks, Chris.
Great.
Have a good one.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.